Okay, wrist grab escape, single hand, same side. We'll talk about more than just that, but again, with the choke defense, one of the main thing that determines how strong or how well someone's going to be able to retain their grip is if there's a gap between their fingers here. If there's a big gap there, it's pretty easy to just rip your hand out. Okay, the classic kind of circle, rip your hand out, okay? If there's a lot of overlap, this gets a lot harder, okay? If you have women with really petite wrists, there's almost always a lot of overlap there, and sometimes even just turning the wrist to point to that gap is very difficult for them. So we'll talk about just the basic way to do this, and then we'll talk about some different ways that are sometimes a lot more effective for a lot of women, and even as a guy, it'll be easier than the way you probably already know. So you can see he's got maybe just a little bit of overlap there. By pointing the thumb towards his fingers, a lot of times it will open up a little more space there, okay? And I can really just pull out a lot of times at that point. By stepping away and putting my entire body into this movement, or even grabbing over top my knuckles, I want to point my thumb towards the gap, because that's where we're going to escape through, right? And I'm going to pull all of that through, okay? If he goes thumb down on this, if he's trying to like drag me that way, I've got to, again, point my thumb towards that gap. So you can see it's not on this side anymore. I've actually got to point it that direction. So I'm going to switch my stance, turn my thumb that way, and again, it's using mostly my body if I just lean away from this. If I just pull with the arm, especially if you're smaller or petite, this isn't going to be strong enough. But if I use my body, that's where the power comes from. Okay, so don't get in the habit of just doing this thing. We really want to put as much of ourselves into that as possible. So we're going to switch sides here. He's going to grab thumb down so you can see that gap. The gap is now on this side. And they'll use this thumb down grip if he's like trying to drag me in a direction, okay? If he's trying to pull me to a different location, whatever. So I'm going to switch. I always want to face what I'm working with here. I'm going to turn my thumb towards that direction. If I can get my other hand on here, it's always going to make this more powerful. So even though a lot of times it's just shown with just one hand, if you can get two hands on there, always get two hands on there, okay? So there's kind of the standard thumb up, thumb down version that you've probably seen before, but there's a better way, okay? So like I said, sometimes if your wrists are really small, or I've seen people with just these gigantic long hands and they can overlap their fingers, this way's probably not going to work for that. So another option is I'm going to press in. So rather than pull the wrist away, I'm going to press the elbow in, okay? I'm just going to pretend like I'm going to touch my elbow to his elbow. So I'm still kind of pulling up here, pointing the thumb towards the gap, but the focus is pressing that elbow into his elbow and driving it high, okay? So the movement's kind of here. I'm just going to point my elbow towards his elbow and drive it as high as possible. So the reason this works is because I'm using the web of his hand here as the fulcrum, okay? That's what we're doing. By pressing that elbow in, I'm levering my arm out of his fingers against his own hand, okay? I'm using his hand against him, and it works wonderfully. So if he's got his thumb up, I'm just going to press that elbow in and drive it up. If I'm too far away, I don't have a very good press because I'm too far away to touch my elbow to his elbow. So when we do this, we're going to step in nice and close. My foot's going to go just to the outside of his foot. So when I do this, I want to step the foot to the outside of the foot. And I'm going to then be close enough to reach the elbow to the elbow. So if I'm too far away, I can't reach the elbow. Even if he's not holding me, if he just lets go, you can see I can't reach the elbow to the elbow. So I've got to be close enough here that I can drive the elbow to his. That's what's going to allow it to release. So I'm stepping in close to the outside, driving that in and high. So we're just here. We good there?
Yeah.
Okay. So if he goes thumb down, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to switch, and I'm going to drive that elbow in, okay? So I just want to face what I'm working with here, and I'm going to put my thumb to the outside, okay? That's the only thing we're going to switch here. So if he's got his thumb down and he's trying to drag me, if the thumb goes on this side, you can see it doesn't work. So I've just got to switch the thumb to this side. So I'm just going to turn my stance enough that I can get my thumb to this side, stepping in, driving, okay? So we have our thumb up, thumb down version. He's trying to drag me. I'm just going to step in, keeping an effective base so that he can't continue to pull me. And I'm going to drive that in, okay? In and high. So in order to do these effectively, I also have to talk about my base, okay? Anytime I'm moving in my base, my feet are moving, I can't really do much, okay? And that's kind of a universal principle in jiu-jitsu, not just to this move, okay? I need a good base. So if my partner's pulling me and my feet are moving, I'm not going to be able to plant and drive on this. So when he starts to pull me, I need to put my foot right close to his foot, okay? And I'm leaning back, okay? The lower I get on this, the more effective this is going to be, okay? So if you're really tall, you don't really have a nice low center of gravity, and so you might have to sink down really low, okay? If you're petite, again, sinking low will amplify your base, okay? So the important thing is that this foot is out here. If both my feet are here and Josh is pulling on me and he lets go, I fall, right? We all done that to your little sibling. So one foot goes forward. I like to kind of put it just toe to toe, and this foot's back here. Josh tries to pull with one or both hands. Doesn't matter. You should be able to effectively secure a base, okay? So make sure that before you set these up, you have a good base. Josh goes to pull, I've got a good base, I can move in and press that elbow, okay? He's trying to drag me from down, I've got a good base, I can move in, driving the elbow, okay? Anytime my upper body gets pulled over top of my hips, I'm not going to have a good base in order to execute this move. So just keep that in mind.